Hi, this is Dr. Jabber. Today I will be covering Chapter 3, Software Design. Okay, Software Design I will be covering in two chapters. This is the first chapter, and this is part 1. Okay, in this chapter I will be covering define what's the software engineering, what are the objectives of a software engineering, what's some of the strategies, how the models, some of the models used, and what is the process of software engineering, some of the characteristics. Also, I'll talk about the types of um, designs and then some of the patterns, and then I will also cover model diagram and component diagrams and flow charting and then pseudocode. So let's just start with defining what is a software engineering. Software engineering, the best definition for it is the second one actually, which is that converting the customer requirements into implementable solutions using programming languages. So mainly when the customer define the requirements, okay, the next step here is to take these requirements and then start designing the solution. It's coming up with the solution. It is the actual solution, and that solution that will be after you finish the design, that solution will be taken by the software developers and then they write the code, etc. So that's the best solution for a software design. Some of the design key elements here, the design contains modules, and those are the one need implementation in the solution. It has so if you look at the design, it will have modules, and it will have relationship between those modules, and then it will have also interfaces between the how do the interfaces mainly how they're gonna talk to each other, and then also it will also specify the algorithms used for individual modules. So what is the objective of software engineering? I'm sorry, software design. The objective, a software design must be correct. That's the first one. And also it has to be complete. It has all of the information and the solution from a structural perspective for developers to start writing the code. It has to be efficient also. Okay, so when we take this solution and we write the code for it, it has to run fast, etc. And it has to be flexible, whereas in the future, if we need to change things in the design, add, modify things, and it has to be also consistent in a way that all of those parts of the design, they are consistent, they are not conflicting with each other, and it's maintainable in a way where is that we can as just adding more stuff to it and then deleting, etc. Now here we're talking about the strategies for software design. There are two approaches actually. One is called top-down design, and the other one, which is the bottom-up design approach actually. So as you see here, I have diagrams here. So looking at this one, the top-down design, this is where you start by breaking the systems into. So you start with a high-level design, breaking it down into subcomponents. So as you see in the diagram here, so the first like circle is like, look at it as this is a high level. This is the component, the larger component, and you start breaking it into subcomponents here, and then so you start from top down to down. So you start with you create the first component, and then you start creating the subcomponents. The bottom up is different. Is different in which that you create the subcomponents and then you go and you integrate them up to the top. So you start from the low level, as you see here in the diagram here. Okay, so you start with it's a kind of a flipped diagram here. So you start with the low level subcomponents, and then you integrate them all with the large component. Okay, there are some software design has models. Okay, so there are two models used in software design. One is called the static model and then the dynamic model. Now, the second part of software design, because as I told you earlier, this chapter has two parts, part one and part two. Part two, I will be showing you examples and tools and methods, techniques for how to come up with a static model and then the dynamic model. But now in this lecture here, I'm just describing what is the static model and then the dynamic model. The second chapter, the second part of the which I will be recording after later on, and that will be focusing on those models here. So the static model is just like showing the structure. It's like a hierarchical. It's like you show the structure, and then you saw the classes that belongs to that structure, some of the attributes and the relationships here. Okay. And then in the dynamic model is actually you're showing the behavior. Like if this system is running in the real environment, in the run environment, how things are behaving, so how things are interacting with each other. But the static is different. It's like you just look at the structure of those components or classes, etc. Now here we're talking about, the software design process. So there is the software design process. How do we design it? Like how to create a design, for an application. Okay, so the process here is converting the mainly. This is what is the actual definition anyway. So you take the requirements and then you convert those into a solution, and the solution. This is what that is used by the user actually. So the process is divided into three levels. Level one is first is that you define the interface, which is okay. So which we call it interface design here. The interface design, we define the interactions with users, devices, and other systems. Okay, so because you build your application, right? Okay, so there are users who will be using it. Maybe your application also needs to talk to other systems. So